What's good, family? And aloha from Oahu. Today is August 26, 2026, and I just wanted to share some crazy news that I've experienced in the last 5 days. Um, I'm off the streets of Oahu, y'all. Yeah, and obviously, you guys can see I have a room now, but just to help protect the privacy of the couple who's helping me, I'll call them by my brother D and his wife, Sister J. So yeah, what's crazy is this all happened on the 30th day of my sobriety journey, which is one wild way to say how my God works in mysterious ways. But literally right after I posted my last video, I got a text from Brother D, who I had only met once before, but we stayed in contact um, via text messaging, and he invited me to a 3 day birthday celebration that Jay had put together. All right, so this ain't just a random couple though. They're family friends that I met through Masina during this 30 day sobriety journey that I've been on. So if you don't know who Masina is, go back and watch some of the earlier videos. But long story short, she happened to be someone who I grew very close to because of she helped my daughter being one of her first singing coaches. But yeah, the same night that we went out with Masina, her producer and his husband, the same night Michael blessed me with that necklace was the night I met this couple. And yeah, the producer, his niece is in the military out here, and that is who Sister J is. And we all had dinner together after the mix, and we just hit it off real quick. You know, they're from Georgia, and that hit home for me because I was part of the background crew for the Moana live action that was actually filmed in Georgia. If you guys didn't know, most of the village scenes were in Georgia, and all of the boat scenes in the movie were filmed out in Waianae in Pokai Bay. Kind of crazy with all these connections, but speaking of connections, those connections in the movie is the reason why me and my daughter moved out here to Oahu in the first place. So kind of a full circle moment. But the only thing of real value I had left was that necklace, and people told me to hold on to it and sell it for a couple racks, which is $1,000. Well, rack is considered $1,000, but I'm not about the money. I'm about connections. So when my homie D stayed in contact and invited me to his birthday weekend, I felt like that necklace was the right gift for him because, yeah, I mean, I can only share what I have, and one of the most valuable things I had was the necklace. So, what another full circle moment. So, yeah, the first night that they had, I busted out all the way from Waianae to Waikiki, which was like a 2 hour bus ride, and there was two spots. The second spot was in Kailua, so I asked if I could ride with them after the first spot, which was ice cream in Waikiki, where we watched fireworks. And probably ask like, why would I do this for people I just met? Because D and I stayed in contact, and because he's a Leo like me, I just wanted another Leo brother to feel special on his birthday. And so they invited over like 13 people to this weekend fiasco, and I was one of the only ones of two who showed up for all 3 days. Like every day we shared, every day was a new a dope thing that they had put together, but it was only me and someone else or another couple. So the first night they insisted on driving me all the way back to Waianae, and instead of letting me bus it, that's when the gaps in my story started to show. And for instance, like my daughter not being with me catching the bus everywhere, and not having a real address to drop me off at because I just told them to drop me off at Waianae Harbor. And so they were like, "All right, can you?" They asked me to keep it real, And it's crazy is they never even followed me on social media or on YouTube, so they didn't have like kind of any, like, again, manipulation in the relationship, because at the end of the day, connection is what's all about, and that's all that they wanted to do, is connect with someone who kind of was at a point where I didn't feel like I could find these kind of relationships again. So when I told them I was homeless, they didn't hesitate. They opened their home immediately and gave me a room with no strings attached. But in a world where it's easy to try and manipulate relationships for like what you can get out of it, their kindness reminded me that real connections still exist, and just showing up as yourself and letting people care is what actually changes everything. And so I'm super grateful for this roof over my head, and for the reminder that some people still help simply because it's the right thing to do. And so yeah, I'm not out of the woods yet, though. Communication is the biggest thing that I stress in any relationship. So this kind of help feels familiar. And the last time I received help like this, it ended up hurting me more than helping me. And in fact, that's kind of the domino effect of why I was actually out on the streets of Waianae in the first place, is because the people who I met in Georgia opened up their house, and when things hit the fan, they kicked me and my daughter out, and just from there on, it went from one place to the next, and then the next place, we ended up going homeless, and my daughter getting put into foster care. So yeah, still a lot of anxiety with that. I just hit 24 hours off of nicotine free again because of it. So I got to be real with that. But Friday will mark a full week of being off the streets. But I want to start sharing exactly what put me out here, because I couldn't be fully transparent before, while I was on the streets of Waianae, because of safety reasons, which I'll get into in the next video. But for now, I'll just leave it here and just say how much I appreciate the connections I've made while I've been here. But like I said, getting back to the anxiety of things, because this has feels similar in that way, I gained some kind of anxiety from it. And in the last 3 days, 24 hours ago was the last time I smoked a cigarette. But so 5 days into my sobriety, I ended up smoking a vape. Just being transparent with y'all, and cigarette. So for the last 3 days, I was smoking, or like probably what 2 cigarettes a day, because of my anxiety with this being too good to be true. You know what I mean? And so I'm just grateful that I didn't let it spiral, and that today, since it's August 26, 2026, I'm a sucker for dates, like I said before. And I wanted to start refresh myself and pushing for fighting for the sobriety needed for my daughter. So with that being said, I want to also share that I got my UA. I did my UA, this was it Monday, so this past the 24th, and I've been negative of all substances. All right, but that doesn't count nicotine and alcohol, because those get out of your system within 2 to 3 days. But I haven't touched alcohol since my birthday, and nicotine for only the last 3 days, which was 24 hours ago. Was the last time I had a cigarette. So it's just marking, this will be the 5th month without my daughter, and my daughter being in the foster care system. I'll get more into that, and kind of like the negatives of her being in the system this long without any contact. But for now, I'm going to end it right now, because I don't want to get too long-winded with these videos, like I've said before. But I appreciate y'all who all poured into my journey and being part of this 30-day sobriety, and the fact that I'm at this point in my journey where I got a room, just go to show that if you don't ever fold and you got to focus and goal in mind, that the universe, God, Tagaloa will bless you on your way. So thank you guys again, and appreciate y'all for subscribing to the channel. All right. Aloha and mahalo from Oahu. Yes, sir.